There's a rule in economics. It's the law of supply and demand. And a lot of what goes on in our economy and our society is keeping to that law of supply and demand. When there's more supply and low demand, the prices are low. When there's high supply and low demand, the prices are low. When it's low supply and high demand, the prices are high. Simple. But money goes along with that too. So a lot of money out in the economy, a lot of cash, a lot of wealth out in the economy. It brings down the dollar. There's a high supply of dollars and it brings down the value. So things that happened like 2008 only increases the value of the dollar because so much wealth was lost by the crash of the market. The multi-trillion dollars of bailout money that went to the banks had to come from somewhere. You have billionaires like Musk, he's worth about $400 billion. Sounds like a lot of money. Sure as hell is. But, he can't give that money away. He can't put that all in charity and, put a dog shelter on every corner kind of thing. Or a children's hospital in every town. I mean, the money, he could afford to do that with the money. And it probably wouldn't make a dent in the money if he did do it. I don't think he'd be helping children or dogs if he did it. Because it's the law of supply and demand. And, there's only so many children pediatricians, there's only so many dog handlers and stuff. And it would create a, false economy. Because people would gravitate towards those industries to suck up that money. Take advantage of the charity of Musk. And that's what it would be. But, and again, there's only so many children that need a children's hospital. And there's only so many dogs that need a shelter. So, you're going to have a whole shelter for one dog or a whole children's hospital for one kid? Of course not. Again, it's supply and demand. That's why the psych wards have so many people in them, because they have, I think my unit that I'm on has 24 beds or 25 beds, and they're always full. There's 25 people on that floor at any given moment. Any day of the week you can call there, and if there's one missing, or two beds empty, believe me, they're working their butt off to fill them quick, because it's supply and demand. They have to pay those nurses, those doctors, and the psychologists. They have to pay their salary. And with 25 beds, they get so much money from Medicaid. So whatever, they're limited to the unit of the size of the unit. They can't expand it. They can't make 30 beds or 40 beds. It's just impossible. So they're limited. And Medicaid only pays so much. So, and again, if Musk donated money to the psych hospital, It wouldn't matter. Yeah, it wouldn't help. It wouldn't be a benefit. Yeah. It would turn out to be perverted. It would be like a perverted situation. Yeah. Because whatever stipulations he put on the money, they would do that to get it. Just like Medicaid puts perversions on the money. You have to do X, Y, Z, fill out all this paperwork to get the check, and that's what they do. Whether it's necessary or not, they do it because it's necessary as far as Medicaid's concerned. So, and it's not like if you're there under private insurance and you're not under Medicaid, that, well, they won't do that for you. They don't ask you if you didn't have a bowel movement or something. Everybody gets treated the same. Doesn't matter. So, it's just, everybody thinks, why doesn't Elon help people? Why doesn't he do things for people? And he can't. He can't. He can't. No more than Bill Gates can, or Warren Buffett, or Bloomberg. They can't. They can't. They have that amount of money. The billions that they have, all those people I just mentioned, which represents many, many billions of people. If you want to throw in Bezos in that, and Bezos' ex-wife, and Bill Gates' ex-wife, the money they have, the amount of wealth they're talking about there. They can't unleash that on the public. They can't buy everybody a dinner. They can buy everybody a car. Let's go with that. They can buy everybody in this country get a brand new car, theoretically, but it's not possible. There aren't that many cars available. What car would you get? If you did get a car, it probably wouldn't run. It'd be a piece of garbage. So, what color would you make the car? You're going to give everybody a red car? Have 300 million red cars out there? You're going to give them to ex-cons and mentally ill people, and homeless people are going to get a car. It's just, you're going to have to start drawing lines, and it's going to create a lot of problems. It's going to create a lot of fighting, a lot of infighting and outfighting, and every kind of fighting you can think of. I want that car. I want that car. And can you imagine a whole parking lot full of red cars? That's my car. No, it's that car. Oh, it's that car. It's like, I can see the nightmare ensuing. So, even though they have that kind of wealth, there's very limited to what they can do with it. That's why they buy $100 million house. Yeah. It's a nice house, but it's really not worth $100 million. When they buy a boat, a yacht, for $100 million. Yeah. Best thing they could do with that is sink it somewhere and make a coral reef out of it. But, and you say to yourself, why don't they, instead of spending $100 million on a yacht, why don't they donate it to the homeless and feed the homeless or house the homeless? First off, you need a lot more than $100 million. First off, and it doesn't work. The economies of scale does not work. There aren't that many houses. There aren't that many beds. And the problem is once you start that, what do you do when you don't do it? When you pull out? So I'm not giving $100 million this year. I gave it the last 2 years, but I'm not doing it this year. So everybody go fish. Yeah. So what are you gonna do? They're going to starve. They're going to be homeless again. Thanks for the bed for 2 years, and no thanks after that. So, it only works for so long. That's why you hear a lot of these people, all these billionaires that talk about they're going to give away their money, and they say those words. They even make an effort to do it. But you don't hear much about them actually doing it. Because they can't. They can't. They're stopped in their tracks. You're screwing the economy when you do that. You're screwing up everybody. It's just like, I'll bring it back to the pandemic. And everybody got $600 a week on unemployment. And all the bosses, all the employers, all the companies complained because they couldn't find anybody to work for them, because everybody was sitting home getting $600 a week. They weren't going to work for $200 or $300 a week at their job at the 7-Eleven, and they were getting $600 a week to sit home. So you screwed them all up. You screwed everything, and they quit that program real quick. They turned it off real quick because of the problems. They had to go to work and risk dying just to keep the economy going. More worth it for them to die for $300 a week than sit home and not work for $600 a week. That's what they did. They didn't care. You work at McDonald's. If you die, it's no loss. It's no big deal. Bosses at GM, bosses at Chase, they didn't go to work. And they weren't getting $600 a week either. They were getting a lot more. They were working from home, making millions. They didn't go to work. They were perfectly safe. But the guy at McDonald's, hey, I need my Big Mac. You better go to work. That was the story. That was the situation. How many people ripped off the PPP program, payroll payment program? False companies they made up and everything to get the money that they didn't deserve. And now, years later, they're getting caught because those checks had dates, those checks had addresses, and they didn't check when they sent out the check, but they got around to it, and they found out who got checks that didn't deserve them. And some people went to jail for it. And some of them people were pretty shocking who did it, local authorities and people that were doing it. Just like the people that were selling the vaccination cards, nurses and stuff that were making cash, giving out fake vaccination cards, for COVID. It happened. Everybody knew it was going to happen when they created the system. Anytime you do things like this, it's problematic. The problem is the world's a paradox. Once you fix a problem, you create a problem. So Musk can fix a lot of problems with his money, but he'd only be creating a lot more. And that's why they spend billions to go to Mars or go to the moon. It's kind of a way of putting billions of dollars in their fireplace in their house and lighting it on fire. It really doesn't matter because they can't use it. It's unusable. They can't release it. There's only so many lobsters and filet mignon they can buy in the world, and that they can physically eat. And if you have $1 billion, there's no way you can spend it on lobsters and filet mignon. For yourself. For your family. So it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And it's funny because those people I mentioned will fire people that are actually working jobs and making average salary, 50,000 a year or something like Musk. He fired all those people in the government making 10, 15, maybe $30 an hour. He makes billions. He has a billion. But he's firing the guy that's making $30 an hour. It's ridiculous. And saying he wasn't doing a worthy job, or he had to justify his job, and like they said, they sent out the paperwork, and you had to write back what you did in the last 5 days, and if they didn't like it, you went home. So, no more government charity. They thought of it as government charity, but when you do a lot of those jobs, there's no private sector job that does it. You test water for the water department. There's no private water department to go work for. You're working at 7-Eleven now. And there's only so many of those jobs. The people that were working at 7-Eleven aren't going to leave, so you could work there. Yeah. But the economy is a nightmare. It's a total nightmare. Somebody's going to lose, somebody's going to win. And it depends, like I said, how do you define winning? What is winning? Did Musk win? Is Musk winning now? I don't think he is. He's on Epstein's emails. I think he's losing big time. He's going to go down with the ship. I think he'd give up all that money just to get off his email list, if he could. But the cat's out of the bag, and there ain't no putting it back. So, I know Gates would pay millions to get off that list. But it's too late for him. He got an STD. It's crazy. Multi-billionaire's got an STD. Couldn't afford a rubber. Gave his wife an STD. She must have loved that. I'm surprised she even had sex with him at all. But we don't think about these things. And you say, what does your boss make? $1 million. Doesn't really do anything. And you bust your ass off in the store or the office that he owns. You make minimum wage, $17 an hour. And you're working your butt off. And if you're a minute late, you're in trouble. If you take 2 minutes longer on your lunch, you're in trouble. God forbid if you smoke. Well, crazy laws, crazy rules. Got to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning on the dot to open the door. Stuff like that. Meanwhile, he's playing golf in Kabul. Somebody's got to keep that Kabul golf course running. Somebody's got to play golf there. They can only accommodate so many golfers. So he gets to go, you don't. They say if you work good and you cooperate and you do your job, maybe one day you'll go play golf in Kabul. When you get to go there, and you actually do get to go there, you'll feel privileged. You'll be of the privileged class, and you will feel privileged. So it's a reward system, keep you in line, But it doesn't work because You got 20 people working in the store and one guy in Kabul. Yeah. And most of those 20 people aren't going to Kabul. Yeah. So they're going to stay in the store until they retire. Yeah. But there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. Economies of scale. Yeah. They build big companies and bring the prices down and the profits up. You know? So that's the economies of scale. Keeping the prices down and the profits up. That's why GM does all its manufacturing in Detroit. Everything's right there, centralized manufacturing, you know. Sure, they have parts made in other areas, and other Canada and other regions, and they ship them into Detroit where they put them together. And of course, now they do that in Mexico, and where it's even cheaper. And they do it in other states where they don't have the union protection that they have in Detroit. So they do it in South Carolina where there is no union and stuff like that. But it's all economies of scale. So the whole factory is based on economies of scale. First in, first out. You know, they only bring the parts that they need. They don't have a warehouse of parts. They only bring in the parts that they need as they need them. You know, so they don't sit around. You know. But to change all those systems, and when you try to change those systems, you hurt a lot of people. Like Musk did when he fired all those people. He tried to make changes and hurt a lot of people. You know. So they were DEI people, so nobody cared. Everybody applauded it. And it's like ICE, they're going after El Salvadorians, and nobody's going to cry for them. You know, one or two they cry for, but majority, nobody even knows. Nobody knows who they are, and they don't have a name. They don't have anything. They don't exist. They're just a number. You know, but ICE agents make money doing what they're doing. And if they don't do it, they'll be fired. You know, if they protest the other ICE agents and what they're doing, they'll be gone and stay as an ICE agent. The court system, you know. The worst thing the courts can do is you stop committing crime. You know, because they'll make up new crimes, you know. That's all. You can't have the judge go to court and have no defendants. You can't have the correctional people be there. No inmates. Bad for business. Those correctional officers have mortgages. They have car payments. They have college payments for their kids. And if you tell them they got to go home because we got nobody for you to guard, you know, not good. It's not good. No. So a lot of people go to jail for one reason: to keep the correctional officers working. That's all. It's just like they build cars they don't need, just to keep the factory people working. You know? So, they build cars that they know they're going to recall. They know they're damaged. They know they're not working right, but they keep building them and say we'll fix them later, which creates a whole other economy of people that are going to fix them. So they know it. They don't like it, and they don't do it on purpose, but it happens, and the way they deal with it is they keep making it. And they work on a fix, but the fixes aren't so easy. So, and the fixes the need to fix doesn't usually reveal itself until the car's been on the road for a while, and people die, or like the Ford when they flipped over, and they were flipping over and stuff. So the Ford Explorer, I think it was, took them a while to recall it, but they didn't stop making them. So, that's why everybody don't get probation when they go to court, because the correction officers need somebody to guard. And if you fuck up in probation, they send you to jail, the correction officer gets a job. That's why I don't like this bail reform, because they're not putting people in jail, and they're not hiring correctional officers. So, bad for business. They keep them in jail so we can make money. Why do you think we incarcerate more people than any country in the world? Because it's a business. We incarcerate kids that decide not to go to school today. Oh, you're going to jail. We're going to make money off of you. We'll put people in psych wards because they need that 24 beds full. And if we don't have 24 beds, we can't pay our psychologist. So I know you're not crazy. I know you don't need to be here. But we're keeping you here. We're locking the doors to keep you in because we got to pay the salary. And we can't do it without Medicaid, and Medicaid won't pay us unless we keep you in the bed. So that's what they do. They keep you in the bed. Doesn't matter. You don't need to be there. And they say, oh, there's only so many beds available. You can't move on. And they're right, because they don't make more beds. They don't want more beds. They want to keep the 24 beds full. So, and they don't try to get you out of those beds until Medicare says, we're not paying for him anymore. You've been there long enough. You got to get rid of him. And then all of a sudden they find a bed for you. A bed all of a sudden appears. But everything's about money. Money. Don't think it's not. Don't think it's not. So when you see Musk and you see all these rich people, they're stuck with their money. Why do you think he paid $40 billion for Twitter? I mean, come on, he could have created X.com and created his own Twitter and not bought Twitter. It was a way of putting $40 billion in the furnace. That's all it was. Twitter wasn't worth $40 billion, but it burned $40 billion of cash, took it out of the economy. Oh well, not there. You keep your bagel in the bagel store at $3 a bagel, or $5 a bagel with cream cheese. If Musk dumped the money on the market, your bagel would be $100 for the same bagel. And that's what that does, and that's why they do it. The more money he burns, the price of the bagel goes down, not up. And what he did when he bought Twitter, he fired all the people because they really weren't doing jobs. They were playing solitary at their games. Solitary is on their computer. They weren't doing anything. They fired them. They were scrolling Twitter all day long. That's all they were doing, and not really doing anything being there. They had to go. So, I told you I'm an accountant. I know the economy. I know how it works. But I don't have quick fixes. I wouldn't tell Musk to donate all his money. Yeah. And the companies that do donate money, they're pretty scary sometimes. Philip Morris donated $250,000 to the homeless and to soup kitchens for the homeless. They donated $250,000 to soup kitchens for the homeless. Now, that's fine. That's awesome. That's great. You would think, because Philip Morris is one of the most evil companies on the planet. They turned it into they couldn't help themselves. They're so evil. They spent $3 million on magazines and articles in magazines to say that they donated $250,000 to the soup kitchens, for goodwill, that make them look good. They spent $3 million on a campaign and $250,000 on the actual soup. That's just what the devil does, That's how the devil works. And Philip Morris is the devil's company, so yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. It's like when they had their mile. See that? When they had their miles program on Marlboro boxes, everything you bought from the catalog that you could buy with miles had a Marlboro sticker on it. Marlboro shirt, Marlboro bag, Marlboro keychain, everything was Marlboro. And they're selling their brand, and you're buying the cigarettes to get the miles, and they're giving you free advertisement. So, how'd you get that? I got miles. I'm going to do that too. Newport doesn't have miles, so I'm going to switch to Marlboro and get my miles and get my Marlboro keychain or whatever the hell they were selling. It's all a scam. They ain't giving you nothing but nothing. So, and Trump, every business he ever had, ripped people off. Ripped people off all the time. Because if he did it legitimately, he sold things at legitimate prices, and he couldn't pay the bills. He couldn't pay the mortgage. That's why he upped the value of his apartment to an extraordinary amount to save money, to get bigger loans. So, and if he didn't do that, he would have not been able to afford the apartment. So, and you can't have him move out of Trump Tower. That's a cardinal sin. That's like getting him to move out of the White House or Mar-a-Lago, So, but it's a perverted world, and perverted things happen in this perverted world. You see what happens in Ethiopia and Somalia and all those places, and with the starvation, the people poor. And, there's a lot of rich people in those countries, and they aren't walking around starving. But the ones you see the pictures of, they're the poor ones. It's the way the government says, you don't want to be like that, so let us do what we do, and you won't be. It's all lies, it's all bullshit. But, it is what it is. I hope to fix the world in my own little way, and what I'm doing right now, just talking about it. I hope you understand why Musk does what he does, and Bezos and everything else. Bezos owned Washington Post. Good way to spend a lot of money and put more money in the fireplace that he didn't need, that he couldn't spend. You know? So, Or I think diamonds cost thousands and thousands of dollars for a little rock. For a little rock, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. Takes money out of the economy. More money in the fireplace. That rock isn't worth $2, but they're getting 5,000. And your wife, your fiance, wouldn't be your fiance if you didn't spend $5,000 on that rock, on that pebble. You know, it's all bullshit. That's all it is. Russia has so many diamonds in vaults. They can make every diamond in the world worth a penny if they unleashed all those diamonds on the market. And that's exactly why they don't. So, it's all a scam. It's all a scam. They talk about the clarity, the color. It's all crap. It's all crap. Like the color of a Tesla. It's all crap. Who cares about the color? Yeah. The girl don't even know if it's real. You can give her a cubic zircon and unless somebody tells her it's not real, she won't know. She won't know. It doesn't matter. And you don't give her a cubic zircon because you might find out one day, and you'll be a sorry little puppy if that happens. It's a long video. I'm going to cut it off. I'll make more. You know that. I'm going back to the psych ward in 2 days. So I'm trying to make as many videos as I can before I go back. And I'll be back, but I don't know exactly how long I'll be there.